So make sure you check that you are in the right location. And without further ado, I will hand over our speaker today, Dr. J.
Thank you so much. So it's always a pleasure getting to speak at BSides. So thank you again for having me. Today I get to speak on something that I'm very passionate about, not because it's a critical infrastructure, but because I actually live on a farm and own one and operate one. So this means a lot to me to get to speak about something that I'm passionate about. All right, so next slide. So if you've ever been around a farm, maybe you've been around some farms that have petting animals, you see the little animals, you see the fields, maybe you see like the old 1950 Madison Ferguson tractor that's here in the top right corner, right? Or maybe you think about the old 1800s time where they used a horse and mule and an ox to like plow the fields. Well, today's farms are no longer like that. We use robots, drones, precision ag, GPS, navigation. So I want y'all to get a different picture in your head when you think about farming today. And so why does this matter? So we have over 800 million acres of farmland in the United States alone, and 27% of that uses precision agriculture. And about 68% of the farms, of the large farms, have used some type of smart farming technology. And if you look at the states that heavily use it, they're crop states. So that's where your major producers of wheat, of the barley, of the foods that you eat on the table or make items that you eat, such as bread, are produced from. If we break this down even further, right, you can see that it breaks it down by small family farms all the way to non-family farms. And so non-family farms are owned by companies, right? And so if you think about that, think of like Tyson Farms. And so the bigger the farm, the more adoption into the smart technology. And you can get all these statistics from USDA. So why does it matter? Well, if you're an OT or IoT, you probably can think of some of the things on here, or you probably work with some of the things today. So we're talking about HVAC, we're talking about soil monitoring, precision livestock farming, grain telemetry, auto steer of tractors. Okay. What does a network of a farm look like? So the modern farm in one picture, we have our livestock, we have our silicone, we have our signals, right? All stitched up together. They are now cyber-connected physical systems. Code controls things that move, feed, and grow. The threat model changes. We're not just protecting data anymore. We are protecting water, feed, harvest, and animal welfare. Animals have died because of a ransomware attack. So some of the targets are tractors, irrigation, HVAC, grain storage, livestock monitoring, and the satellite and cellular links. What can be hacked? I think we've gone over a lot of that. GPS, satellite systems, IoT. This is heavily an IoT and OT here. If you look at next, who's actually doing the hacking, right? And then how are they doing the hacking? And so when you look at that, we're used to these threat actors, right? Nation states, we have researchers, we have ransomware, cyber criminal groups, and then even non-nation states, and then the hacktivist, right? And so what real world situations have it impacted? If you've heard of JBS Foods, we're going to do a case study of that here. Viasat, we're going to do a case study of that real quick. But also things that maybe you haven't heard of, or maybe you've heard of them, like Dole. If you like pineapples or fruit, that's Dole, right? And so they've gotten a ransomware attack since like in 2023. And then of course, John Deere tractors, and then some other foreign countries, their water. So we're going to do a Viasat case study. So who here remembers when Russia invaded Ukraine? It made world news, right? Anybody? Okay. And I'm sure there was a lot of traditional cybersecurity folks monitoring that, right? But one of the things that they attacked was the Viasat company. And so their intent, right, was to disrupt Ukrainian military comms, but the collateral damage in these attacks was extensive, right? Not only from a regular communications perspective, but also when you think about the tertiary actions, right? So wind turbines in Germany were impacted. They lost their SCADA monitoring. Rural farms across Europe lost their connectivity overnight. And why, right? Viasat explicitly serves agriculture. A lot of the technology that our farmers are using for these smart farms rely on Viasat, their technology and their hardware to connect everything. So the lesson here, right, if your satellite link is your only link, one nation state attack can take out your entire operation overnight. So JBS meat processing attack. You might not have heard of this one. This one is in the United States. It controls a lot of our meat processing with cows and pigs. It's the world's largest meat processor on that aspect. So a ransomware attack happened on Memorial Day weekend in 2021. And so what happened? Well, production stopped. So you're talking about 20,000 heads of cattle could no longer be produced. Well, who knows about the beef prices right now, how much it costs for a piece of steak, right? Yeah, it's expensive, right? Well, imagine this back in 2021. If you wanted to know why beef prices rose in 2021, this is why, right? When you take it offline, a quarter of the nation's beef supply vanished overnight because of this one attack. And the FBI did attribute it to REvil, a Russia-based criminal group. More than 40 ransomware attacks hit food producers in this 12 months around this incident. So I'm going to take you through a day of being old MacDonald. All right. We're going to start from early in the morning, and then we're going to end in the evening. Hopefully y'all can survive the attack. Maybe you'll be in tears and maybe you won't. We'll see. 4:47 a.m. These attackers are getting up as early as old MacDonald, right? We're starting off where it all starts. Attacker finds the irrigation controller exposed on the internet. Who has heard of Shodan? Yes, Shodan is crucial to this, right? So we have the old MacDonald didn't know, but his systems were on Shodan, and his systems use the default username and password, admin. Goodness. And so this is a known vector, right? And so in agriculture, there are thousands of PLCs right now on Shodan. Unitronics PLCs in Israel were targeted exactly this way in 2020 and again in 2023. 6:15, old MacDonald is now going to go feed his chickens. And the adversaries are now going and they're doing sensor spoofing. So from an OT perspective, sensor spoofing is bad. My PLCs are not working the way my monitoring system and my dashboard says they're working. If the farmer trusts the bad data, his decisions for the rest of the day are going to be wrong. Crops fail, water is wasted, and the farmer doesn't even know he's under attack. Virginia Tech both flagged IoT sensor spoofing and GPS manipulation as the biggest emerging threats to precision ag. And the FBI has stated the cyber risk to farms is growing exponentially. 8:30, farmer MacDonald is finally starting to eat his breakfast. He's eating and trying to eat his scrambled eggs, but unbeknownst to him, his fields are drowning. And he looks out the window and he sees there's water all over his front yard. So now the adversaries have moved from a recon to a physical escalation. They've moved from passive recon, and now they're actively manipulating the controls. Because the sensors are already spoofed, old MacDonald thinks that the irrigation system is working just fine, and his fields are drowning. So precedent to this, right? Iran tried to push chlorine levels in Israel's water in 2020, and a Western intelligence official said that it was close to successful. So there is, people have done this. All right, so at 10:45, His cows goes berserks and his chickens go quiet. They're in a barn. And now they've moved to HVAC controls. Instead of them going burr, the HVAC monitoring dashboard says it's a lovely 72 degrees inside the barn, but the cows and chickens are frying. It's 100 degrees plus in there. I mean, I like fried chicken, but I don't like my fried chicken with feathers on it, right? And so because of this, the cows are in heat distress. We have baby cows or calves that are at the brink of death because they're too hot. And so when we look at that, in 2023, a Swiss dairy farmer was attacked through a ransomware attack, and he did lose several of his cows because of it. Cows died, right? And so if you have flat networks plus trusted HMIs plus no offline runbook equals dead animals. Segmentation is not a nice to have, it's a welfare critical. So if we don't have the proper security controls and segmentation for the network on farms, now we're talking about death of animals. Okay, now 1 p.m. The farmer thinks he can rest a little bit. He's in his tractor and he's taking a quick little nap as he puts on his precision farming tools on the tractor, on his John Deere tractor. And he is putting it on the navigation controls. He has his whole field mapped out and he's letting his tractor go. Unfortunately, that hacker, they've spoofed the GPS controls. And now he went 15 feet too far and he ran his tractor into the muddy fields from earlier in the morning. And so now the wrong things are getting the irrigation and the wrong things are getting the chemicals to kill the bugs and to grow, right? So our attacker has done a $300 Hack RF Plus open source software broadcasting fake GPS signals, right? And so why is precision ag so exposed? Because it's unauthenticated. No integrity check, no signing. Any low power transmitter nearby can outshoot it. In 2022, Russians stole $5 million of tractors, John Deere tractors specifically, from Ukraine. Unfortunately, that dealer, the John Deere dealer, was able to do a short kill switch due to their GPS aware kill switch. So that was, good and quick, right? All right. So now 3:30 p.m. Your files are now in another castle. So what is happening now? The attacker has been living rent-free in the network all day. Now we're starting to seeing supply chain. So the food and ag supply are deeply interconnected. A single disruption can disrupt feed suppliers, processors, distributors, and finally consumers, you, the ones that eat the food. The economic impact is measured in billions. So when we talked earlier, JPS, right? 20% of U.S. beef import capacity. Oh, goodness. It is malfunctioning, but anyway, let's do this. Here we go. We were at 3:30, right? So, apologize for that. So we had an AES 256 brick walls, the farm management servers. Feed scheduling for 11,000 head of livestock is impacted. Grain, elevator, logistics, financial records, all locked. The feed mixers go silent. Deliveries are now halting. The co-op's phone tree lights up. So they're responding and hearing some issues, right? And so in 2021, Black Matter demanded $5.9 million. 40% of the U.S. grain ran on the software. 11 million animal feed schedules at risk. Crystal Valley was hit in the same week. And the FBI warns attackers deliberately time their harvest. They time these attacks to the harvest and planting seasons for maximum leverage. 6 p.m. Who's in tears now? If you're responding to this attack, who's in tears? Because old MacDonald and his family are now in tears. His farm production has stopped for the season. He cannot move forward. Hopefully, his insurance claims pick up on this, because not only does it impact his family and his livelihood, it now impacts the region because he is the largest distributor in that region. And so he is now we are having a food shortage within the week. Okay, so for everybody who's like, okay, cool, but are these techniques real? Yes, if you look at the MITRE attack matrix for ICS, all of these attacks, all of this timeline was based on real world recorded techniques from the MITRE attack matrix, and they follow the typical from reconnaissance all the way to the endpoint of that MITRE attack matrix. And so when you look at, well, where do I have the biggest impact? Where do I start? Get your stuff off the Shodan, right? TO883, Internet Accessible Device, IoT, OT devices, farming technologies, PLCs, they are on Shodan. This is one of the top vulnerabilities today for this. And then the second one, default passwords, right? Who is still using admin out here? Well, farmers are because they don't know any better. And so when you look through every single one of these timelines, I have mapped it to a technique for you. All right. How much time do I got left? I'm running early. Okay, so lessons learned. So farms are OT environments with cows. Default creds are the #1 ag attack vector. Sensor data is the trust boundary. And attackers time the harvest. That means if I'm planting or if I'm going to harvest them, right? Cyber physical equals real world consequences. And the blast radius is now regional, it's not local. So we've been through old MacDonald's worst day. We exposed PLCs, spoofed sensors, flooded fields, roasted barn, killed chickens and cows, rogue tractors, ransomware, and a supply chain mess by dinner. Before these fixes, 3 things to name. The attacks weren't exotic. They were boring IT failures applied to OT. The real damage was not physical and not data loss. And the farm doesn't need a SOC. It needs few foundational controls and a paper backup plan. And so we're going to break that down a little bit. So the dashboard is an attack surface. If you only trust the screen, you only see what the attacker wants you to see. HVAC, GPS, irrigation, all lying to you. Flat networks are the #1 force multiplier. $139 unmanaged switch turns the irrigation hack into a dead livestock. Identity matters more than perimeter. Default credentials and shared accounts let attackers walk in without exploits. Resilience beats prevention. Offline, paper fallback, and out-of-band sanity checks save the season when the screen is wrong. Timing is a weapon. Adversaries hit at planting and harvest because that's when leverage peaks. Design backups around the calendar. With those in mind, we're going to go into how the community can help. So you in this room can help our farmers exponentially, okay? We've seen what happens when it goes wrong. But what happens when it goes right? What can you do? So one of the things you can do is you can go meet the farmers where they're at. Go to the co-ops, the vendor, maybe the or to the farmers market. Farmers don't have a cybersecurity SME that they can call on a dime. They have a co-op. They have a vendor that they can talk to that they get their stuff for. And if you've ever been on those 1-800 numbers, you're waiting for a long time. They might have a nephew who's good with computers, but they may not know cybersecurity. And so what we can do as a cyber community to help farmers is we can sit down and we can work with them. Don't talk to them like, oh, the adversary is getting into your network through a lateral movement and through this open PLC and through Shodan. They're not going to understand that, right? Talk to them on their terms, right? He got into your barn because of your irrigation pump, right? Work with them, create a plan, create a document of what checklist they can run when something goes wrong. How do they validate that their dashboard actually has the right information? Build that paper backup plan, right? And then plug into existing programs. So There is an ISAC, right? The ISAC that you can get plugged into. There are local FFA programs. There's local farm brewers. And you can plug into all of these plus the co-ops to help them achieve their stuff. And so if there's no farms, there's no food, and there's no B-sides, right? Okay. So everything here, if you're looking at the references, I have a lovely QR code for you. If we do what we normally do with B-sides and we're allowed to post our presentations, I'll post it on my little page. If not, you can reach out to me and I'll happily share this information with you. And so I ran a little bit early and a little bit fast, but everybody loves lunch, right? And it's right downstairs. But at this time, I'm going to open it up to any Q&As that you may have. What kind of things interest you from an OT or an IoT thing, or even from a farming perspective? Go for it. Anybody questions? Yes. So the question was about my farm. So I grew up on the farm. I was raised on the farm. I own the farm. It's a farm that's been passed down through generation to generation. My family's been farming since we came over from Europe. So big background of farming. Yeah. What else? Yes.
When you're talking with farmers and you're saying to relate with them and try to help them secure their networks, what do you say to those farmers that are like, I don't own a computer? Nobody's trying to attend.
Right. So farmers who don't own computers, what do you say to them? That's a tough one, right? I would ask them, hey, does your tractor, what type of tractor do you use? If they say John Deere, okay, how new is your tractor? Because the newer tractors have GPS and precision farming, and that opens up the door for conversations. And then I ask them about the irrigation. Hey, do you manually turn it on? Is it an old well that you have to pump, or do you have like cool new technologies? Is anything connected to your phone that you can monitor, right? And so you break it down like that for them. Okay. Anybody else? All right. Well, I'll be here all day if you want to talk about farming or IoT or OT, anything like that. You can meet me downstairs for lunch. You can reach out to me at any of my contacts. Several of y'all follow me on LinkedIn, so I appreciate that. Y'all can always message me there. Happy to talk, happy to share. So thank y'all so much.